Welcome back to the Check Swing Podcast with myself, Jay Watson Radio Man, and my man over there, right over to that side. Call him Santa with the Phillies gear on. To call him Santa because he always giving us the gift of baseball knowledge. But welcome back, like I said, to the Check Swing Podcast. It is about that time. Appreciate y'all for checking in with us. And of course, we are still talking about our Mount Rushmore. We are going to reveal the entire Mount Rushmore as the World Series comes upon us. But right now, we are still in the AL and NL DS, or CS, excuse me. Braves and Dodgers and Astros and Red Sox, as you already know, because we're a baseball team. But with all that being said, y'all know how I like to start every show. Let's start off every show by asking people I'm with, how have you been? So, Miguel,
Sir,
how you been, man?
I've been good. I finally found the perfect crab cake that I've been searching for the last 13 years.
Well, if you were searching up here for that crab cake, there is no way you were going to find it.
I had it. There was this one, spot that you probably know, and it was good for like 6 years. And then all of a sudden, new recipe come in, and it's like
They messed it up.
Instead of the crab cake, it was like a crab turd kind of sort of thing.
Okay.
That's the way I can explain it. But
Well, I'm on record as saying that I do not get my crab cakes anywhere but Maryland.
there you go.
I was in New England last week, in the New England area. I was in Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island.
You were in Wasp country.
Yeah, I was out there, and what did I have? I had some, and I'm mad. I'm angry about it too, and I'm gonna tell you why in a second. I had these clam.
Chowder?
No, it wasn't clam chowder. As Ryan said, piece of advice: never eat crab turds.
Amen, Ryan.
I think that's good advice. For
Fantastic.
whatever reason, I think that's good advice. I had these clam. They were like, I think they call them. They weren't cakes, but they're almost like hush puppies. Yeah.
Crab balls. Because were they crab balls?
Yeah, I didn't want to say that though. I didn't want to, but they were clams. They weren't crabs. They were clams.
So they were clam balls.
Yeah, but I didn't want to say that.
What else are they called?
They were not called balls. They were called something else. I can't remember. But anyway, long story short, they were really good. And I only ate like one or two because they were really hot at the time, right? And then I had some flounder, some fried flounder, some fish and chips, right? And this is while we were in Rhode Island. And so I took my food home in a bag. And somehow, some way, this bag with my tasty food became the garbage bag because nobody realized it was my food bag. And as I'm looking for my food the whole night, I'm like, where's my food? I can't find my food. I asked my wife, I said, did you put it in the fridge right now? I couldn't find. Then the next day I realized, oh, this is my bag right here. And I looked in, it was like all this trash in it. I was mad.
Hold on. Did you still eat it?
No, I did not.
Oh man.
Because it sat out the whole night.
Oh yeah.
And it was seafood.
I would have done that.
Had it been like something else, pizza or something, I probably would have ate it. But it was seafood. It was a long ride home. I didn't want to chance it.
Yeah, that's a tough piece.
Yeah, I was highly disappointed. Highly disappointed.
I'm so sorry for you.
But I'm glad you were able to find the perfect crab cake because that area has a.
It was this big.
Like the size of your hands or the size of the circle inside your
circle inside my face. That's how big this joint was.
Ooh, wee.
Yeah, it was a good one. And it was, it was juicy. They used, the crab imperial on the inside. Oh, it was gorgeous.
I actually may be down on the Eastern Shore, not this weekend, but the following weekend for my alumni baseball game. So maybe while I'm down there, maybe I can find a good crab cake.
It's just south of Baltimore, maybe like 15 minutes south of Baltimore.
I won't be on that side of the bridge. I'll be 2 hours away from Baltimore.
Well, I mean, I didn't figure distance wasn't what mattered to you if for a
It
good
does.
value.
It does.
I keep forgetting you're not the long haul driver.
Well, no, I am, but the long haul will be from where I'm going, where I am to where I'm going, and then coming back. I mean, I could drive the 2 hours to Baltimore and then back 2 hours up to Philly, but I don't know if I feel like doing that.
I got you.
It of course is my one of my days off. But anyway, um, that is, or this is the Check Swing Podcast. It is the Mount Rushmore. We are continuing the conversation of the Mount Rushmore. Um, but did you want to do a big dummy first? Just to get over?
You want to start off with the big dummy.
We could talk about the big dummy if you. I mean, you know, we could do it later.
We can get it out the way now.
All right. Well, let's do the big dummy of the. Let's do the big dummy. It's a staple here on New Twist Radio. It's been going on since the New Twist show back in 10 years ago. The big dummy. You had a big dummy today, Miguel. And who was your big dummy?
Hold that thought. I want to say.
Sound like you was constipated over there. You all right?
No. I have to rush through some. Wait.
Hey, handle your business. Go ahead.
No.
I see what you're doing, but
we're doing it out of sequence. So I was like, let me.
Oh, my bad. I didn't. Okay. Well, we could have said no. We could have said no, but now that we've already done it and you already changed up your sequence, the big dummy of the day. You know, well, it looks like somebody's probably going to be a little bit of a spoiler. So I'll wait until you put up the big dummy to put up the comment. Because who I think your big dummy is, they said that this person is the big dummy of the year. So, you know, but yeah, what we do with the big dummy is we find somebody who within the past week or so has done some stupid things, some very dumb and stupid things, and they will become our big dummy of the day. And as it goes, let's do this. And I'll put in the comment there.
Yeah. And you saw what he did today, right?
Today?
He posted his house for sale.
Oh yeah. His house
for $4.9999999 million.
So I thought his house was already up for sale in the summertime.
No,
I thought he put up his house after the season was over.
Right, but I think that was actually not his house. I think it was an apartment, condo, or something like that.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
And you know what? This whole situation always speaks to me in regards to the type of athletes that you and I have been blessed that we haven't really had this type of athlete. Like the one that was, well, okay, I might have to take that back. We did have one. But the ones that are so talented and they know that they're talented, so in their minds they don't have to give max effort, or it's just they don't have that
it's the ones that are so talented that they don't think they need to get better, i.e. Ben Simmons.
Right.
He has not, as far as we know, has not done the things to become a better ball player, and now he is blaming everybody else for his shortcomings on well, I shouldn't say he's blaming everybody else for his shortcomings, but he's saying that, you know, he wants to get out of the area because everybody is blaming him for. Just put your big girl draws on and you know what? Can we get off of this? I don't want to, because this will take up the whole doggone show if I get into this. I'll tell you right now. Yeah, let's get off of this.
Hey, are you first time you've ever been visibly angry?
Well, I mean, it bothers the hell out of me because, and this is a baseball show, not a basketball show, even though I love basketball. It bothers the hell out of me because I have a lot of theories that go into this, but he's coming off as a baby. Yeah. He's coming off as a baby. He's coming off as it's just not going to work out. You know, like nothing is going to work out in his favor. I cannot see this working out in his favor. by the way he's acting. Now there have been people that have wanted out of a city before in best basketball, football, baseball, whatever the case may be, who were under contract that handled it. I'll say differently than he did. James
Right.
Harden last year comes to mind. Jalen Ramsey went out of Jacksonville comes to mind. Scott Rowland went out of Philly comes to mind. Um,
The
you
Scott
know,
Rowland one always hurts because like he was right at the time. He was right,
yeah, I mean, yeah, but
but
he was supposed to be part of the build.
right, and I think it just because you realize when you look back at the Scott Rowland situation, he just was impatient.
Yeah,
Because as soon as he left, then we got Tome, and then we started drafting through the farm system, and it worked for the 10 years. And I think if he would have been with us in '08 and '09, we probably would have back to back championships.
you think they?
I
It's
think,
possible.
and I think the challenge is that because once Scott Rowland left, I don't think he had many full seasons. He was injured a lot.
He was injured a lot, but he did win like a World Series like immediately
Right,
with,
right.
with the Cardinals.
To quote him, he was in baseball heaven when he went to St. Louis.
Well, and at the time, St. Louis was
It
they
was
were
baseball heaven.
yeah, it was. Got to say that. But speaking of baseball heaven, we were putting together four of the best players to ever play the game in their specific, what would you call it, genre of field. So for instance, it's a Mount Rushmore, and as you know, there are only four spots on the Mount Rushmore, and we're going outfielders, infielders, pitchers, and catchers. One outfielder, one infielder, one pitcher, one catcher. And so far we that picture always cracks me up. So far, we have Barry Bonds as the only member of the Mount Rushmore. However, I believe tonight we will be unveiling two more:
Yes, we
the,
shall.
the infielders and the catchers, as selected by you, the viewer. And we appreciate you. We appreciate you, all of you that have participated in the um, in the survey. And with the infielders, we had Luke Garrett at first base. We had Jackie Robinson, second base. We had Cal Ripken Jr. at shortstop. And we had Mike Schmidt at third base. Now, with all that being said, I know a majority of our viewers, of our audience, is from the Philadelphia area. So, I'm not saying that entices any votes in any specific way. However, I have not seen the results yet. I would not be surprised if Mike Schmidt was very high on the list. Now, Mike Schmidt is highly regarded in the baseball world here in Philadelphia. However, Lou Gehrig, Jackie Robinson, and Cal Ripken Jr. are all formidable opponents to Mike Schmidt, who some think was the greatest third baseman of all time. Arguably, people can argue it. When we went over the statistics, Lou Gehrig's statistics at first base were amazing. I had no idea. Like I knew he was good, but I had no idea the statistics that he had. Jackie Robinson, we all know his story. We all know his influence on the game. Um, Cal Ripken Jr. Um, another amazing shortstop infielder. Has the record, the Iron Man record, played the most consecutive games in Major League Baseball history. Had like one of those what you call storybook careers in a sense. He was that type of guy. So, Miguel, your thoughts on these four?
When it comes to if you're looking at just the statistics, I mean, there's a big push towards Schmidt and maybe Gehrig. But again, when you look at and I think you had brought this up when we were debating the second base position between Jackie Robinson and Joe Morgan, sometimes you have to time the historical aspect of it. So, like when you think about Mount Rushmore, you think about the forefathers and George Washington being the first president, and Thomas Jefferson and Theodore Roosevelt and Abraham Lincoln, kind of unique in what they contributed to history or alleged history, depending on what side of the coin you're from. But it was a hard choice for me because pure numbers, pure numbers, Jackie doesn't make the list. But
Right.
there's some things that just kind of override the numbers in certain situations. And that was a challenge even when we were looking at Barry Bonds versus Hank Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
Because even, if you put the two side by side, okay, Barry Bonds, short swing, powerful, didn't walk, all that stuff. But he didn't necessarily have to deal with what Hank Aaron had to deal with.
Right.
You dig what I'm saying? So from a
Yes.
historical stand, because Hank Aaron was probably the most modest, humble baseball player, and even when he was going through the record or going through chasing Babe Ruth's record, he was just all he said was like, "Listen, I don't want anybody to forget Babe Ruth. I just want people to remember me."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
just that kind of meekness and humbleness, like you know, which unfortunately Barry Bonds didn't have that kind of relationship with the media because of some of the stuff that he endured. That he saw his father Barry Bonds and his is it uncle Willie Mays,
His father, Bobby
his
Bonds,
godfather, right?
and his
So
godfather, Willie Mays.
what he saw them go through growing up, that caused him to come in with that chip on his shoulder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and it may have not afforded him the grace that, let's say, a Mark McGuire has gotten throughout the game.
Right. Right.
So,
So for the infielders, Miguel,
yes, sir.
who is going to don the infielder spot on the
Based
Mount Rushmore?
based on all the arguments, the data that we presented, the fans have chosen Sir Jackie Robinson by a landslide.
Wow.
Mike
Wow.
Schmidt, yes, did come close, and Lou Gehrig didn't even get a vote.
Wow. Interesting.
I have
Interesting.
a I have a feeling because his picture was really black and white versus the other pictures. Um, but yeah, he
Well,
didn't even get.
but here's the thing. When you think of Lou Gehrig, right? You think of, well, at least for me. Let me speak from my perspective. When you think of Lou Gehrig, what do you think of? Yankee.
Right.
You think Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS. But I never hear anybody talk about how good he was. Like I hear people talk about he's a Yankee great. He was one of the greatest baseball players, but I never hear about what he did that was so great.
And I think it's overshadowed by the fact that he played on the Murderers Row Yankees in
Right,
1927,
right,
which is probably one of the greatest teams season wise. And he played next to Babe Ruth. He batted right. He batted right behind Babe Ruth.
hmm
And there was the one year where they were kind of going tit for tat home run wise, and I think Babe Ruth wound up. It was I think the second year he hit 60, or the year that he hit 60, and Gehrig was in competition with him. I believe he had like 52 homers, so they were neck and neck. One year, and at the end of the day, Babe Ruth was just so grandiose in persona, and Lou Gehrig. It was like when Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris. Have you ever seen the movie 61? When they're going at it, everybody was
yeah,
rooting for Mantle because he was New York, and Roger Maris was kind of like a hick, which he
right,
was from Kansas City.
right.
So Lou Gehrig was never the grandiose. He turned away interviews. He didn't want all the pomp and circumstance, but that's what I think overshadowed it. And he was more known for the speech, being the luckiest man on the face of the earth
hmm
versus what he actually did on the field.
Yeah, Luke Gehrig, all time great. Look him up. Look up his numbers. Look up what he's done. I think like you said, he's overshadowed because of the team he played on. Batted right behind Babe Ruth.
Yep.
Like you really hear about Babe Ruth, but you don't hear about the accomplishments of Lou Gehrig. But with all that being said, Jackie Robinson is has solidified his spot on our Mount Rushmore of baseball. Now, last week we also spoke to you about catchers. We talked to you about the catchers, some of the greatest catchers to ever don the game. Ivan Pudge Rodriguez, Johnny Bench, and Wallow.
I gotta keep saying you said Wallow, not Rollo.
It's Wallow. There's Wallow there. No, who is that, Miguel?
That is Roy Campanella.
Campanella. Roy Campanella. And that's another one that you don't really Roy Campanella is one that you don't hear a whole lot about his accomplishments. Like when you peeled off his accomplishments, what he did and all like that, I had no idea that. I mean, I knew his name, I knew who he was. I had no idea of his accomplishments. I always hear about Johnny Bench. I always hear about Johnny Bench being the one of the greatest catchers of all time. You hear about Yogi Berra, who wasn't who wasn't on the list, that make it to the list. I lived through Ivan Rodriguez, one of my favorite catchers of all time. Him and Benito Santiago, they were two of my favorite catchers right there. But in their own right, three great catchers. Campanella's numbers were amazing. I thought when we first went through, I was like Johnny Bench hands down, and then you started breaking down the numbers, and I was just like, wow.
And keep in mind that with Campanella's numbers, he came up late because of integration. He was still
Mm-hmm.
in the Negro League, so he came up late as a rookie. And remember, his career was cut short because he broke his neck in a tragic car accident.
Right.
So he was, and I always point to this that he was actually still a coach after he was paralyzed from the chest down, and he was able to coach Steve Yeager, who was an All-Star catcher for the Dodgers in the '70s teams against the Yankees, and then coached Mike Scioscia, who's a well-known manager in the Los Angeles area, and he himself was an All-Star catcher. Couldn't figure out Mike Piazza, and that's probably why he retired. Shortly after he met Piazza. But
Norristown's own Mike Piazza.
worst
Um,
catcher ever. Sorry.
and he was hired by I'm having a brain fart here.
Lasorda?
Lasorda. He was hired by Tommy Lasorda.
Yeah.
And Tommy Lasorda, if I'm not mistaken, is a Pennsylvania guy too, right?
Yeah, from Norristown.
Norristown. So Lasorda and Piazza, both Norristown guys. It's probably where that whole combination comes in. But like I said, Johnny Bench, great numbers, great catcher. Ivan Pudge Rodriguez, great catcher, great numbers, great nickname, and Roy Campanella, great catcher, great numbers, amazing numbers, actually amazing um, throw out percentage, caught stealing percentage. He caught a lot of guys stealing. But your thoughts on the three before we reveal?
It's tough because I'm with you in regards to watching Pudge grow. He was my favorite catcher growing up, point blank in the third. Not just because we are of the same nationality, but dude was awesome, and he had one of the greatest endings of a game ever in the playoffs. I think he was with the Marlins, and it was against the Giants in a wild card game, and base hit to left field, throw him out at home plate, and he stands up holding the ball, and I think it might have been the year they won the World Series too, if I'm not mistaken. But
Yeah, because up until
it might have
last
been
year or
the
2 years
2000.
ago, the only time the Marlins made the playoffs, they won the World Series up until like last year or whatever year
Okay,
they
so
won
then
it.
it was that 2002 or 2014.
Yeah, because the first team that won the World Series with the Marlins, I believe, was Benito Santiago the catcher? I know Darren Dalton was on that team. I think Santiago might have been the catcher, and I think Lenny Webster might have been on that team too.
No, it wasn't it Charles Johnson.
I'm sorry, Charles Johnson, not Lenny Webster. Sorry, Charles Johnson was on that team. Yes, so it might have been Charles Johnson. It might have been excuse me, it might have been Charles Johnson that
Yeah, Benito was on the 93-94 Marlins, so he was the first catcher in
okay.
their history, but he wasn't there at the end.
So who got it?
So we have a dilemma.
Uh oh.
We have a tie between Roy Campanella and Ivan Rodriguez.
Wow. Gee.
And,
Makes me think about something.
and kudos to the ones that mentioned Mr. Lawrence Yogi Berra and Josh Gibson. Um, and we'll kind of cover the Negro Leagues in a future episode, but just kind of a historical point on Josh Gibson. Greatest hitter in Negro League history, not so great catcher by all accounts.
But when you can hit, you're kept in the lineup. When you can hit the way he hits, what they say about baseball? Your glove, you make the team with your glove. Your bat keeps you in the lineup.
Yep.
That's what they say. That's what they
So,
say.
so we have this dilemma here. Now, normally when a game is tied after 9 innings, we go into extra innings, correct?
Yes, this is true.
So, should we do a game of rock, paper, scissors? The old-fashioned way.
You and I,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how else to break the tie.
we can send out another survey,
A tie-breaking survey.
a tie-breaking survey, and reveal it next week.
You know what? How about this? How about the next person to respond in the chat with who they think it is? Then that's a little bit.
Between the two, because if they say somebody that's not,
Then they'll just be kicked off the show. But
well, if anybody wants to respond, you can. I'm more privy to the survey again, just because I just like bothering people. But if you're listening, you're checking this out right now, and you want to be the tiebreaker, Roy Campanella or Ivan Rodriguez. Interesting because two different eras. Campanella's numbers were crazy. Campanella's career was cut short. Ivan Rodriguez, one of the greats, probably one of the strongest arms I've seen on a catcher. I don't know. It's got to be between him and Molina, probably.
well, and Molina's still playing, so once his career
Molina's
is
still
done, then he
playing.
will qualify.
Qualified to be on this list.
Right.
Wow. Okay. Well, if it comes in before the show, we'll do that. But if not, we'll just have to send out another survey with just Ivan Rodriguez and Roy Campanella. But with that being said, we have the pitchers. The probably the most important position on the field. At least, nothing starts without the pitcher. So, for our pitchers, what have you put together, Guru Miguel?
So instead of the three, I expanded it to I think around 6 or 7, just because there's so many that are great. And I think when you see the first one I start off with and realize that he's not number one, you're gonna see how great pitchers were to cover the all of history of baseball.
Can I just say this? So I got to be honest. One of my favorite pitchers, and I've never seen him play. It's just I heard the stories. One of my favorite pitchers of all time is Satchel Paige, right? Just because of what I've heard of Satchel Paige. But it's hard for me to say, and I don't know if he's on the list or not, but I have a feeling he is. It's hard for me to say that a man who has an award, a yearly award named after him for the best pitcher, is not the greatest pitcher. Does not go into Mount Rushmore. But I know there's going to be a lot of great names that you've come up with. So, what you got?
Number 7,
Nolan Ryan.
Nolan Ryan.
And he whooped somebody. Who was it? I forgot.
What you say? Robin Ventura.
Robin Ventura. He kicked Robin Ventura's ass. I remember that. Gave him the old 1-2. That's what they call it in Nolan Ryan's era. Give him the old 1-2.
Let me learn you something, Johnny.
Nolan Ryan. Wow. Okay. What you got?
There are his statistics there. Played for 27 seasons. Okay.
Let me stop you real quick.
Okay.
So when I was younger, I didn't realize he played that long. Right. I think when I was younger, I want to say the first team I knew he played for was the Astros. And you have it all here: the Mets, the Angels, the Astros, and I think I have a. I want to say I have a Nolan Ryan rookie card somewhere. I might have
Really?
more than one actually. And the fact that it was like a Mets, and it was 1966 when I was dumbfounded to know that it was the 80s and the 90s at the time when I came across this card. And it was 1966, his rookie year. I said, "Good Lord, this man has been pitching forever. He's never going to retire." 66.
And they said they had a gun on him when he threw out the first pitch about 7 years ago, and he was throwing 83 at like
Wow,
70 years old.
wow.
What do they always say? Don't mess with Texas.
Don't mess with Texas. But go ahead, break them down for us, Miguel.
Um, so I think he played so long, people forgot that he actually did win a World Series. He was actually on the Miracle Mets in 1969. He actually did get a save in that series, and he had a bout of wildness, which is why he was traded to the California Angels. And the year after he was traded to the Angels was his first 300 strikeout year, so he made them come to regret it.
Hmm.
He was on the Astros team that we played against him in the National League Championship Series in 1980. Phillies versus Astros, probably the greatest National League Championship Series ever. Um, 8-time All Star, 300 game winner, 7 no hitters, most ever. The reason why he's not the greatest pitcher of all time, in my humble opinion, was that, believe it or not, he actually was not that dominant. He has the third most losses in the history of baseball.
Well, hell, you played for 99 years.
Of course. He has the record for most walks by 952.
Wow.
So that's the gap. He has a relatively high ERA over the compared to all the other pitchers on the list at 3.19. Never won a Cy Young award, which I every time I look at his career, I'm like, he's never won a Cy Young award. Out of the 27 seasons, he's only been to the All Star game 8 times. And guess how many times he won 20 games?
It's either once or none.
Uh, Tons, twice, 2 times.
Twice.
Only
Wow.
2 times. Matter of fact, when he came to the Astros after he left California, he only won more than 11 games once.
And the Astros were good at the time.
The Astros were good, and they went to the National Championship Series in 80 and 86. But in 86, he had an injury, so he didn't play. He didn't finish the season.
Hmm.
So he was really all or nothing. It was about the strikeouts, and then it was about the no hitters. So that's really, when you put it in that kind of substance, it's hard to put him at number one because he really was just a power pitcher, and that was about it.
I almost want to put him on the I almost want to put him on the Mount Rushmore just because he threw Robin Ventura in the headlock.
his bust or his satchel have him with the bloody lip
Listen,
and his fist in his face.
if you are going to charge the mound, you can't lose. You cannot. That's like. I mean, I'm not a big hockey fan, but I feel like if you're a hockey player and you start to fight, you can't lose.
Can't lose.
Like I feel like that should be a thing. Like if you're going to charge the mound, you can't lose the fight. You can't get thrown in the headlock. You have the upper hand. You have a helmet and a bat. And I'm not saying hit him with a bat or anything like that. But what I am saying is
It's the
you
wrong.
have the upper hand. You're a professional athlete. You are not allowed to lose that
That's the
fight.
wrong league. They only use bats in fights in the Caribbean.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Just based on the videos I saw. I'm sorry.
Who else you got?
All right. So coming in at number 6 is a lefty, Mr.
Sandy
Koufax.
Koufax.
Now, here's the interesting thing about Sandy Koufax. And again, for those that aren't really into the history, I apologize, but let this be a moment to learn. career-wise, Sandy Koufax would be compared to what Barry Sanders was because he had to retire at the age of 30.
Right.
So at the age of 30, he already had four no-hitters. He had the highest Ks per nine inning. Well, he's 11th, I should say, on the list, even to this day, 9 Ks per nine innings. Um, his final 6 years, he was 129 and 47 with a 2.19 ERA, 150. This is a 6 year span, 115 complete games, 35 shutouts, over 1,700 strikeouts, and he had a 23% K rate in that 6 year span. What made him knock the he in his retirement he talked about having to get cortisone shots once a week before
That's no good for a pitcher.
that's no good for a pitcher. He said that he would have to ice it for hours after a start and then heat it hours before a start just to get the kinks out.
Wow.
But he left the game on top. Last game he ever played, he pitched to win in a World Series sweep in 1966, but he had to call it quits. He's like, I'd rather save my life than save the game. Like, but three-time Cy Young Award winner, won 3 World Championships, 7-time All-Star. He was a late bloomer too because from 55 to I'll say 60, he was almost out of the league. He was wild, walked more than he struck out. But then in 1961, he made one mechanical change. He added a curveball, and the rest was history.
Talking to some people, they will tell you that Sandy Koufax was the greatest pitcher of all time.
A player compared trying to hit Sandy Koufax was like trying to drink coffee with a fork.
Damn.
Wow. I was like, I get it.
Wow.
So at the time he had the most no hitters ever with 4. And so to put it in perspective, 12-year career, and he had 44 no hitters. Imagine if he lasted another 10 years.
Right.
What could have happened?
He probably eclipses Nolan Ryan's 7.
Probably. And even putting Nolan Ryan in perspective, he had about 5 or 6 other no hitters he took to the 9th inning. And actually, that's where the source of a lot of his losses were. There's a game on YouTube, if you look it up. It's
you talking about Ryan or Koufax?
Ryan.
Okay.
Look up Chicago White Sox and California Angels no-hitter bid in the 9th because Dick Allen, I'm a big Dick Allen fan. He breaks up the no-hitter with an infield hit. So I just put that up. But yeah, getting back to Koufax, that's the best way I can compare like what his prowess was or his career was compared to Barry Sanders. You saw what happened with Barry Sanders. We'll never know, unfortunately, what the true greatness of Barry Sanders could have been had he had stayed in the league and not been disgruntled about being a Detroit Lion. With Sandy Koufax, it was the same thing, but his injuries took his career away.
Man, another Hall of Famer, class of 72 Hall of Fame.
Man, it was a good year.
And like I said, depending on what circles you talk to, they say that Sandy Koufax was the greatest pitcher of all time. So this is gonna be interesting because there's only two so far. Nolan Ryan is a name that everybody knows. Sandy Koufax, people that know baseball will, they probably heard him in the discussion of the best pitcher ever. But you have 5 more names to go.
5 more.
Which means that there are probably 5 more names with better numbers. Maybe.
Something like that.
A lot of numbers go into the pitching category. So
right. So
who you got next? Randy Johnson.
Another late bloomer. Really came up when he was 24. Actually was drafted by the Expos and then traded to the Mariners. 10-time All-Star, won the World Series in 2001. Cy Young Award winner, 4 times. Won the 2001 MVP, 300-game winner, 100 complete games, 37 shutouts. I didn't realize how close he was to striking out 5,000. But he had a high strikeout rate.
Mm.
Not too much negative to say about Randy Johnson, other than could have been in more World Series. I think because I think there was a couple of series where he just couldn't. He was kind of like the sole heir, if you will, especially for those Mariners teams. He was pretty, when he was on the mound, he was kind of solid, but didn't really have much support around him except for 2001. So, killed a bird on national television live. Um,
Exploded the
and
bird.
he decimated the bird. Was not punished for animal cruelty or called by FIA or FEMA. Was it FEMA? What's the animal?
FEMA.
Is it
FEMA. No, not FEMA.
SPCA
No, it's
animal rights?
doggone, I forgot. But yeah, I was agreeing. Yeah, FEMA.
It's
No, it
like,
wasn't
I was
FEMA.
like, no, that's different. So yeah, that is Mr. Randy Johnson.
Now Randy Johnson. Now it's funny because I didn't realize I knew he was a great pitcher, right? And he was definitely our era. Um, I knew he was a great pitcher. I knew that he probably should have been in situations to win more championships.
Yeah,
Seattle just wasn't good enough when he was there. Houston, he was there for a year. You know, Arizona, they had the 1-2 combination of him and Kurt Schilling. The Yankees, he spent some time with the Yankees. That's forgettable. I forgot he was with the Yankees. Be
yeah.
honest with
The only thing memorable about that is when he landed in New York, he pushed a reporter and told everybody to get the hell out of his face. So that was nice.
and that's what you got to do in New York sometimes.
Yeah.
That's how you ingratiate yourself with the New York media. 100 complete games, 37 shutouts, 4,875 strikeouts, a 3.29 ERA career ERA.
So that would be another negative is that his ERA is irrelevant. I mean, when you look at ERA at a 3.29, that's actually pretty good by today's standards. In
Mhm.
general standards, before it, it's not even close to the best in the top three. Let's put it that way.
I was gonna say it's probably not good standards when it comes to this list.
For the greatest.
Yeah, for the greatest to go onto the Mount Rushmore. But Randy John had John Kruk batting from the other side of the plate in an All Star game. I'll never forget that.
And Larry Walker, who tried to mimic him but wasn't as funny.
Yeah, it's never as funny the second time.
Right.
Just saying. And John Kruk's just funny anyway.
Yes, he is.
He's the Charles Barkley of
A baseball.
baseball commentary. Randy Johnson, ladies and gentlemen. So who you got next? Oh, this guy.
Right. Roger Clemens wins the award for best made up word in a congressional hearing in the word I misremembered. Okay. Um,
Misremembered.
so, for those that follow baseball, especially 80s and 90s, Roger Clemens, I don't think was necessarily well liked by anybody but his home team. Um, just he reminds me of Ben Simmons of his day, but he actually used his talent, kind of, sort of. Just
Hmm.
kind of like babyish, arrogant, stuff like that. I
Hmm.
still don't think he should have been kicked out of that playoff game for arguing balls and strikes. Just saying for the record, it's a playoff game. Like,
You can't argue balls and strikes, man.
it's the playoffs. But okay, regardless. Boston Red. He had a 20 strikeout game early on in his career. Um, Pitched in the 1986 World Series that Bill Buckner, well, was credited with losing, but he didn't really lose it. Played with the Blue Jays, Yankees, Astros, 11-time All Star. He was the first one to win 5 Cy Young Awards, ended with 7. And then you see the key stats there. Still kind of a high ERA, 118 complete games, 354 wins, 4,600 Ks. The biggest thing that's marred his career, of course, is the steroids issue, um, as did Barry Bonds, whether he knowingly took or not, or in Roger Clemens' case, misremembered. Um, there's a key moment when he left the Red Sox in '96. He had four consecutive bad years prior to that, so they were thinking he was out of town, career's over. All of a sudden, the resurrection happened in '97 when he went to the Blue Jays, which is around the same time that steroids was hot in baseball. So, you know, there's an alleged connection to that. But again, when you look at the steroid era and the fact that he lasted as long as he did in the steroid era, pitching wise, is kind of a pretty good feat in itself. Um, so he started he first with five Cy Youngs, ended with seven, and there is Roger Clemens.
He had a steroid moment.
Ah, yes,
Everybody knows the steroid. He had the steroid moment of. I hate to call it a steroid moment because I probably would have did the same thing, not on steroids, but I call it a steroid moment when Mike Piazza in the World Series when Mike Piazza bat broke and the bat came at him and he throws the he throws the broken bat at Mike Piazza. Like
I love the reaction of Clemens. He's like, "All right, give the ball. I just need the ball. Give the ball." Everybody's like, "You threw a bat at him, bro. Like, what the hell's wrong with you?"
he was fired up.
He was fired
But
up.
here's another thing, and this is one of my weird J. Chris things. Okay. I have a problem with, and I know he played for a team in between, but I have a problem with guys that go from Boston to New York or New York to Boston. I have a problem with that. I really do.
Really?
I do. I don't know. I just do. It's the whole and today it's like you know how we came up.
Right,
Like if somebody went from the Eagles to the Cowboys,
right.
they're dead to us.
It would be like Magic Johnson coming to the Sixers.
It would be like Magic Johnson playing with the Celtics.
Yeah, nah, you're right. You're right.
You
You're
know what
right.
I mean? It would be like, it just I have a problem. But and it's funny, he played for the Sox, he played for the Jays, he played for the Yankees, all in the same conference.
And
All
Wade
in the same conference.
and Wade Boggs did the same thing, and
Wade Boggs did it. Yeah.
I can't think of anybody else at the moment. But yeah,
I just like when Johnny Damon went to the Yankees, I was like, come on, man, really? Like you're Johnny Damon, you got the beard, the whole caveman thing going on, and then you go to the Yankees.
right.
Like really? Like Chuck Knobloch went from the Twins to the Yankees. Okay.
That doesn't mean anything.
But when you're a Reds, like this is one of the biggest rivalries in sports. You literally are supposed to hate each other, right? And I know it's more of a fan thing than a player thing because they're just playing the game. They're doing the job.
Did you feel the same thing with Phillies and Mets?
Yes,
So you hated the fact that we got Lenny Dykstra.
I was too young to even know that Lenny Dykstra came from the Mets.
Gotcha.
And and just for the record, if it helps my team, I don't care. if it helps my like Wheeler came from the Mets. I'll take it.
Gotcha.
If it's a thing where we're getting the piece and we kind of took it from the Mets, I'm all right with that. If Phillies get Ronald Acuna Jr., I'm okay. I'll live with it.
Gotcha.
But seeing somebody go from the Sox to the Yankees to the Sox, it really bothers me. It really does.
Fair enough.
It's like, so let me compare it to this. Why did Jackie Robinson retire? We talked about it on the show a couple weeks ago. Why did he retire?
Allegedly, it was because he was traded to the New York Giants.
And he would have rather not played baseball at all than play for the Giants, which was Brooklyn's rival.
Right.
He said, I'd rather retire than play for y'all. Kudos to you.
I love baseball myths.
Who's next on the list?
All right, so we're down to the next three. All right, so
Okay.
here's number 3.
Greg Maddox.
Greg
Interesting.
Maddox. Interesting from the standpoint of he was a finesse pitcher. in the steroid era. Okay. He relied on pinpoint control. He never led his league in Ks, which still is kind of astounding to me because he wasn't a big strikeout pitcher, but he always had nasty stuff.
Mm-hmm.
33 or more starts, 19 times out of 23 years. So he was durable. 15 or more wins, 17 years in a row.
Wow.
Eighth
Wow.
all time in wins with 355. He was the first to get to four Cy Youngs. And an excellent fielder, 18 gold gloves.
He won.
So
Hold on. Let's not go past. He won 4 in a row. Cy Youngs.
four consecutive.
He won 4 in a row. He didn't just win four.
Right,
He won 4 in a row.
right.
Wow.
So the biggest knock to him, well, let's go over the stats. 355. Again, a surprisingly higher ERA, 3.16. 109 complete games, 35 shutouts, 300. He still had 3,000 Ks, which is still relatively impressive. Um, but the biggest knock on him was his playoff performance. Um, in the playoffs, in 35 games, 11 and 14. Also, his strikeout to ball ratio went from 3.3 during the season to 2.4. So he was almost down a strikeout in the playoffs.
Well, we know Atlanta, outside of 1 year, they choked in the playoffs every year in the 90s.
Thank you.
They choked.
Um, and I think what some people would point to the fact that the number in his playoff is skewed because there was in his first playoff game in Chicago, because when he played with the Cubs, it was Cubs in San Francisco. First game he gave up a grand slam, so it was like 6 runs. But the next start he did pretty well. So it was like he would have innings, per se.
Mhm.
He gave up a 6 spot to the Phillies in the '93 Game 6 of the championship series, so he came up short there, but had a relatively okay game too. So they say the numbers are skewed. I say he sucked. I win. So
But four Cy Young awards in a row. That's pretty good. And I say they choked in the playoffs. They lost in the World Series to the Twins. They lost in the World Series to the Blue Jays. They lost in the World Series to the Yankees, and they won in the World Series against the Indians. So there was 1 year where they took care of business. But if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong. When they lost to the Twins, I think the Twins went back to back. Correct?
no,
Did they? No. Okay. So it was just the Blue
it
Jays that
was
won back to
when,
back.
when yeah, the Blue Jays went back to back. When the Twins and the Braves went, it was the first time two teams were last place the year before and went to the World Series.
Okay.
Whereas the
Gotcha.
two worst the first teams, first
Gotcha.
time that ever happened in history. But yeah, it was.
And so they lost to the Blue Jays the following year, which I believe was the year of the Sid Bream, uh,
Yes,
Sid Bream score.
the slowest RBI single in the history of baseball. I was rooting. I was. I was so mad at Pittsburgh after that. I was like, I hope they blow it up. And that was Barry Bonds' last year.
In Pittsburgh, right? That was
Yeah.
Barry Bonds, Bobby Bonilla, Andy Van Slyke, Pittsburgh Pirates.
Jose leaned.
Jose Lean, yes. Which for a long time I didn't know how to pronounce his name because I had this card, but I never caught him in the game. So I was like, is it Lind? Is it Lined?
Yeah.
What is it? But there you have it. Greg Maddox, Chicago Cubs, Atlanta Braves, Dodgers, and the Padres. Finesse pitcher.
Finesse pitcher. So for number two and number one, okay, there's no video of these two players.
Mm.
They're before all of us, before Babe Ruth and stuff like that. But their numbers are so
You said that before Babe Ruth?
yeah.
Oh wow, okay.
And I didn't want to, I didn't want to go that far back because I'm like, no one's gonna know. However, when there's an award named after you, like you kind of alluded to in the beginning of the show, you kind of want to see, well, what is that all about, right? So number two, I actually have Cy Young. So
I actually just
he,
picked up Cy Young on my team on the show.
did you? I've
So
never
it was
picked
only
him
an
up.
88 though. So I'm kind of mad about
I,
that. But
I've never picked him up. I picked up.
just got him yesterday.
I picked up the old Reggie Jackson and the new or the middle aged Lou Brock.
Okay.
Um, so Cy Young played in an area in an era called the dead ball area. So basically, dead ball just meant like ball didn't travel. Most home runs, and I think during played most home runs hit during his era may have been like 8 or 9. Okay, but in spite of all that, right?
Let me stop you there. I got a question for you on that. Dead ball era. Because I've always heard it. Dead ball era, juice ball, was it a dead ball era because of the way the ball was constructed, or was it dead ball because no one was strong enough to really hit the ball out consistently enough
More
to
so the
correct?
latter, but it because the dead ball era was like the advent of the slash hitter, the bunt.
Okay.
It was about like the chess match of the game. You know what I mean? Like so few home runs were hit, you had people surrounding the outfield as the outfield wall. Like a lot of
Mm,
fields didn't have
okay.
outfield walls.
Right. They had the bench. That the
They had
bench was the
right,
bleachers that would. Right. Right.
right,
Right.
but there was no threat of people getting hurt in the outfield because that's how few home runs were hit.
Right.
So it was a lot of slashing, a lot of dashing, and stuff like that.
Okay.
And again, you see the teams that he played for don't even exist: the Cleveland Spiders, the St. Louis Perfectos, the Boston Americans, the Cleveland Naps. He did
Boston
win.
Rustlers.
He did win a World Series with the Boston Red Sox, the then Boston Red Sox. But here are the numbers, right? 511 wins. I don't think we're ever going to see a 300 game winner in baseball ever again. Just the way pitchers are constructed, the way the pitchers are taught to work today, and you have the starter who, a quality start in his day was 3 complete games in a row. Okay. A quality
Mhm.
start today is like what, 6.5, maybe 7 innings. So
Right.
you have the starter and then the setup guys or the mid reliever setup guys, and then you have your closer. They didn't have any of that back in the day. Okay. But 511 wins. Um, it it's just a phenomenal number. It's one. They always say records are meant to be broken. That's not breaking. That's
No,
not
that
breaking.
one I don't see that being broken at all ever.
Now he also has, and this is kind of what here's the balance of it all, right? He has the record for most wins ever by a pitcher, but he also has the record for most losses by a pitcher at 316. So he's the first 300 loss pitcher of all time. ERA fairly good, still surprisingly high, 2.63. 749 complete games, 76 shutouts, only 2,800 strikeouts. Okay. But extremely high WAR. So here are the records that he owns: most wins, most losses, most games started ever at 815, most complete games 749, most innings pitched at 7,300. He's also given up the most hits at 7,100, and all the most earned runs at 2,100.
And he played at a time where I'm sure they pitchers pitched a lot more often than they do now. They once every 4 days now. Then I'm sure it's probably more than that. They might have been pitched back to back days, which
Correct.
would because you're throwing that many games, and he played what 1890 to 1911. So that's 21 years,
22.
22 years.
Mhm.
He
So,
had to play back to back, or he's pitching 2 3 times a week, something along those lines.
so put it to you this way: the average starter today has what, 25, 30 starts,
Hmm.
right? Let's see. He once had 49 starts in a season: 46, 47, 40. 46, 43. Um, this will blow you away too. He had 42 starts in 1899. 40 of them he completed.
Mm.
42
And,
starts,
and it's
42.
interesting because it looks like because of the numbers, it's obvious that he pitched complete games in games which he did not win, which is
Well,
something that doesn't happen. You really don't see that.
so
You won't see that at all today, actually.
here's his second season in the big leagues. He was 27 and 22. Then he was 36 and 12, 33 and 16, 26 and 21, 35 and 10, 28 and 15. So yeah, he would have the double digit losses, but it was almost three times 3-1 that he would win.
Right, right. And but what I'm saying, what I'm talking about with the complete games, 749 complete games. He only has 511 wins. So he obviously two over 200 games that he completed. He threw a complete game.
And lost.
He lost or no decision or whatever. But I'm going to assume he lost because he has over 300 losses. That's amazing. I mean, that just kind of speaks to the time.
Right.
Like things are way different now, and I don't know how hard he threw. I'm sure we can look that up if we wanted to. If we had the time.
Don't know what his pop time or his exit velo or any of that stuff
We
is.
don't know any of those things that people like to those buzzwords people like to use today. But Cleveland Spiders, St. Louis Perfectos, Boston Americans, Cleveland Naps,
These names are actually pretty cool. They're kind of catchy. I like the sound of the St. Louis Perfectos.
Boston Rustlers, like the Rustlers.
Yeah, that's pretty good too.
I kind of like the Rustlers. I don't know. I don't know. Spiders. I hate spiders, but I kind of like the Cleveland Spiders.
I
Kind of like
just
that
can't.
race.
I don't. Yeah, especially those daddy long leg. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I have a story about a daddy long legs, but I'm interested in seeing who else you have on here above Cy Young.
So the person on this list only has one major league record, but when I look at his career compared to Cy Young, this gentleman played in the transitional period between the dead ball and the live ball era, meaning he faced Babe Ruth. Cy Young never did. He faced Lou Gehrig, Jimmy Fox, all of those classic players. Cy Young never did. So the person that I have as number one is Walter Johnson.
I picked him up too.
Did you really? I just hate the. I don't like this when the guys that
Wind up,
wind up like
yeah.
this. I'm like, it takes 3 minutes to throw a ball in the dirt.
Messed up my whole timing. I had to take him out.
You know what I mean? Shoot. All right.
Walter
So anyway,
Johnson, Washington Senators. Okay.
played 21 years in the big leagues. Was a world champion towards the end of his career, 3 years before he retired. Um, in baseball, they have what's called a triple crown for pitchers, which is best ERA, most strikeouts, and most wins, I believe. And I think he's like the number one to this day in the most triple crown wins. Won 417 games, but his ERA was stellar, 2.17. And I'm gonna do a quick comparison between Cy Young so you can kind of see like the all of the numbers.
Mm.
Most shutouts in a career to this day ever, 110 shutouts. 110 shutouts.
Wow. Wow.
So he was kind of a mix of Greg Maddox and Nolan Ryan. So that's kind of where I'm at with his ERA was so low in an era where he had to face murderers row.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So to bring it all together, so here's Cy Young's career. I know it might be a little bit too difficult to say.
Yeah, you're gonna have to read that to me.
Okay. So
there's a lot going on there.
Most wins that Cy Young ever had in the season was like 36. Then he had 35, 33, 32. Everything in that low section, put my arrow to it right down here. These are all the major league records that stand to this day that are probably never going to be broken. Not much in the strikeout category. Not much in the ERA category. He led the league in ERA twice. Now here's Walter Johnson. Okay. Did have a 30. He was 36-7 in 1913. So that was his career year. But look at all these ones. There may have been one, two, three,
Wow.
four, 5 years out of the
Coming
20 where
coming
he
to
was
the later side of his career.
right. You know,
Mm.
as a starter through 51 games. So sometimes, and he would even come in and relieve other people's games and then come out and start another day. Um, but I was just astounded at the fact, he also had 300 strikeouts, one of the first pitchers to do so, 300, 200, 200, 200. So he's that mix, if we're going to go five tools of that control and power, whereas Cy Young was a little bit more finesse. And I think the last few years of Cy Young's career, pretty much from when he was 42 or 41 on, it was really about padding the numbers.
It's
But
very possible. I wonder how much they really cared about numbers back then. I wonder
yeah,
if it was like a thing, like if they had agents, which I doubt they did, but I wonder if they had agents like, yeah, you need to, if you want your career, whatever. But Walter Johnson, another pitcher who had more complete games than he had wins. When you had those statistics up there,
yeah,
when you had Walter Johnson statistics up there, more complete games than he had wins. So that era, the 1800s, early 1900s, late 1800s, early 1900s, that whole era is a different thing. Like if you look at, it reminds me, if you look at a boxer's career, just take any championship boxer career, right, from any era, today's era, 1900s, 18. If you look at their career early, they were fighting like once a week.
yeah.
They were fighting like once a week, and now, now that's not the case. Later on in career, because they're fighting better competition and all like. There's so many reasons for it. But and I'm thinking about like Tyson Fury, who was suspended from doing any boxing for the next 3 months. Not because he did anything, just because he was, he was in a big fight, and he can't participate in boxing for the next 3 months. Deontay Wilder can't do anything for the next 6 months. They make sure that they protect the product, basically. Um, and but back then it wasn't about protecting the product; it was about getting these wins,
There
getting
you go.
some dominant statistics in a sense without really looking at statistics. Um, but wow, man, what a list you just put together, man! And just think about some of the names that aren't on the list, like your Pedro Martinez's, your
I was this close to putting him on there, but
your Mariano Rivera's,
right.
your who else? Who I had like a whole bunch in my head, and I kind of forgot as soon as I started saying names. But
Well, I mean, Steve Carlton was going
Steve
neck.
Carlton,
He was going neck and Steve Carlton had the strikeout record. Was a strikeout king for like a month because people forget that him and Nolan Ryan were actually going neck and neck for a while, and Steve Carlton just lost steam. He lost steam around 84, 85, and then had to call it a career in 87. So he couldn't. He just could not outlast Nolan Ryan.
who
You
played for
know,
99 years,
who
like I
played
said
for
earlier.
right, and
um,
yeah,
but I mean, man, these pitchers, man. I mean, baseball is an amazing sport where, I, like, if you ask somebody today to pitch as much as these guys pitched back then, like they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. They won't do it. They're scared to do it, and they would probably cry about doing it. And back then, they probably just wanted to dominate. They probably had a coffee and a beer at the same time. Probably mixed them. Had a cigarette and a cigar at the same time. Probably mixed those two, and then went out and played a game
there you go.
after eating some barley or something. I don't know. I don't know
It's
what they
like,
ate back then. But,
it's like what Mickey would tell Rocky. He's gonna piss lightning and crap thunder.
but wow, what an amazing list you put there. I can't even remember all the names, but you had Greg Maddox, you had Cy Young, you had Walter Johnson, you had Nolan Ryan, Roger Clemens, and Randy Johnson and Sandy Koufax. Wow, I don't even know how people are going to. I don't know how people are going to decide. The viewers, I don't know how you are going to decide what. I don't know. I mean, I get a vote too, and I don't know how I'm going to decide. Amazing list, an amazing list put together by Miguel. I can't wait to see what the results of this list are when we do the show next week. So, um, I guess with that being said, we didn't get any comments coming in on the to break the tie with Ivan Rodriguez and Roy Campanella.
Uh-oh. I just checked the survey though.
Okay, did it change? Did somebody
Hold up. Let me
change it up for us?
let me do a quick refreshal. Refresh. Couple
Oh,
more.
wait a minute. Oh, wow. You don't even want to know what I was about to say. I was about to say, wait a minute, when were we supposed to reveal the catcher today?
Technically, yes. And guess what? We have a winner.
We have a winner.
We have a winner.
Let's see what we got.
The
Ivan
winner.
Rodriguez. Ivan Rodriguez. Somebody went back and probably voted again. So Ivan Rodriguez is going up as the catcher on our Mount Rushmore. Congratulations to Pudge. Congratulations to Pudge Rodriguez.
My people being represented.
I like it. I like it. Oh no, I forgot about this part.
Yes.
A
This show was
one-time
created.
All-Star,
Yes.
Charlie Huff. Ha!
Was it the numbers?
I think it was. I think it was. Like I always let me. Okay, so let me just for clarity. I only know Charlie Huff as a Marlin. And the only reason I only know him as a Marlin is when I first saw him pitch for the Marlins, he looked like he was about 72 years old. And I was like, how is this guy pitching in the major leagues as old as he is? Like I just assumed he was at least in his 60s. Because he looked old, he carried himself old, he wore the stirrups when nobody else was still wearing stirrups. And the Phillies were tattooing him.
Right. And
So
he
I was
did,
like,
and he did play for 25 years. And I don't know if he did this on purpose, but he played exactly 13 years in the AL and exactly 13 years in
he didn't do it on purpose.
the NL.
He
You
didn't
know
do it.
what's an interesting thing though? He was born in Hawaii.
Really?
He's birthplace is Hawaii. And that picture in the top left hand corner is the
I know,
famous
I know who it is.
He's the one that gave up the third home run to Reggie Jackson to clinch the that World Series and clinch his MVP.
I would like to, and maybe you can look this up for next time. I'll probably look it up too. I would like to know some of the names, some of the more famous names throughout his career who he gave up home runs to. Obviously, Reggie Jackson. He probably gave up a home run to Barry Bonds. You know what I mean?
He probably gave up the home run to Barry Bonds' father and his godfather.
Probably the Barry Bonds, probably Ken Griffey Jr. and Ken Griffey Sr.
How many families own Charlie Huff? That should be the search stat.
But
The
he
search
pitched
criteria.
for such a long time. He didn't make it to our Mount Rushmore survey. I feel like you put him on this because I always like guess Charlie Huff or like I always say Charlie Huff for some reason. Like
You,
what made you put him on it?
you made reference to the fact the very thing you said about the Florida Marlins, and for some reason every time I think of the Florida Marlins, I think of your boy Juan Pierre. I
Mm.
think of
Of
Charlie
which I had
Johnson.
I had opportunity to pick up Juan Pierre on my Diamond Dynasty team on the show, and I picked up Shane Victorino instead because it was Shane
Uh,
Victorino.
yeah, switch hitters always like picking up switch hitters. Um, but yeah, you always make references to the Marlins and Juan Pierre, and I always think of the Marlins. I think of Charlie Huff too. But I was like, I'll make it easy for him this week. But I didn't think it would. I thought the first because remember his first number was 31. I thought that would kind of throw you off a little bit. But
Well, here's what it was. So I saw that the last team was the Marlins. and it was a high number. And I remember Charlie Huff having like a weird high number. And I was just like, let me just say Charlie Huff and see if I'm right.
You did that one other time.
Yeah,
I think
but it was after I guessed like three people.
no. You did it. You're like, I'll just say this person. I was like, seriously,
Charlie Huff, ladies and gentlemen,
Charlie Huff.
oldest man in professional sports. He's probably still pitching right now.
Oh, there's a picture of him as a pitching coach, and he looks horrendous. I'll see if I
Well,
can find it.
nah, we don't have to do that to him. Let's not do that to him. We can share it offline. The people could look it up for themselves. No, you're gonna do it. I see you looking. I can see the look on your face. Like you're.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I can see the look on your face. Well, it's time for us to get out of here because Miguel's trying to be a bully.
I'm not trying to be a bully. You have the player, and then you have the coach.
I looked a lot different as a player and a coach. Just, just for, just to put that out there.
Yeah, but
Um,
we still look alive.
yeah, that's true. Um, while Miguel looks for this picture, hopefully he doesn't find. I don't know why I don't want you to find it, but hopefully he doesn't find it. But we shout out to our big dummy of the day and of the year and of the week, Ben Simmons. Um, as we had this comment earlier about what he is, said he's the big dummy of the year. That's Ryan Hunter. Put that out there. Um, Shout out to you for voting and actually clearing up the rest of the votes of our catcher. Shout out to Ivan Rodriguez, who is going up on our um, Mount Rushmore as a catcher. Jackie Robinson got the infielder spot. Barry Bonds got the outfielder spot. And it's up. That's Charlie Huff.
Yeah, I told you.
He definitely looks like a coach.
I like how,
He has the look.
I like how he kept the sideburns.
And he's coaching for an LA Dodgers affiliate. It looks like.
Mhm. I think he's actually beat Dodgers or something similar. I think this might be spring training because
Oklahoma. Oklahoma. Some looks like yeah, it could be spring training because he has on the LA stuff and player has on the it looks like a minor league affiliate uniform. Um, Ivan Rodriguez, Barry Bonds, Jackie Robinson. One spot left on our Mount Rushmore, and a pitcher is going to have it. It's either going to be. You don't have to pull up the pictures again. I'm going to try to remember on my own. It's either going to be Randy Johnson, Greg Maddox, Roger Clemens, Cy Young, Walter Johnson, Nolan Ryan. Was it 6 or 7?
7. Southpaw.
Or Sandy Koufax. All right. We'll be sending that survey out to you. Make sure you check it out. For those that are watching that check us out, consider making a small donation to New Twist Radio through Cash App at $ New Twist Radio. It helps us expand our reach and also expand what we're doing here for you. You can also send any comments, questions, or requests and all that good stuff to 215-486-0335. That is our text line. And the text line is looking for sponsorship. So if your company wants to sponsor the New Twist Radio text line, you can email us or hit the text line 215-486-0335. Or of course, you can email us at newtwistradio@gmail.com. Check out the Check Swing podcast on Facebook, on Instagram and Twitter at Check Swing. Was it Check Swing Show, Miguel?
Yes.
Check Swing Show on Instagram and Twitter, where we're putting a lot of stuff out there. And what else? There's something else I'm forgetting. Oh, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the thumbs up button, like, share it. Really helps us out. We're trying to make some things happen for you, and we're putting some things together for you. And we really want people to be able to take advantage and be a part and enjoy it. All right. So with all that being said, I want to thank y'all for checking out the Check Swing podcast once again with myself and my man Miguel Santa, the guru, the genius of the baseball history. I call him a baseball historian, whether he wants to be called that or not. It is what it is. as Ben Simmons would say. And we're going to get up out of here.
I
Appreciate
don't
y'all.
care about that man.
Appreciate y'all. We'll talk to y'all next week. Peace.